So how is this assigned to a county? Well, the state tracks two different statistics, and the details are not super important. But basically, what you have to know is that there are two different ways of tracking COVID-19 in the community. And so, when the state goes to assign a tier to a county, they are looking at both of these metrics. And this table shows a breakdown of the values for each metric that land the state in different tiers. An important thing to note is that the county is assigned to the most restrictive tier of the two metrics. So for example, if the adjusted case rate is in the purple tier, but the positivity rate is in the red tier, even though the positivity rate is in the lower tier and would mean less restrictions, that county is put in the purple tier because you go with the most restrictive tier. So how do we get pushed into a higher tier? Well, again, only one of the metrics has to be in a higher tier for 2 consecutive weeks. And it's really problematic if you do get pushed into a higher tier because you have to remain in that tier for at least 3 weeks before you can move back down. So that means that more businesses will be closed for at a minimum 3 weeks. In order to move back down, both metrics have to be in the lower tier for 2 consecutive weeks. So this is definitely not something that you want to do. You don't want to be pushed into the higher tier. One other note about moving into a lower tier is that the state also measures a health equity metric. And that just means that they're looking at ethnic communities that tend to be the hardest hit by the pandemic. And so if the positivity rate in ethnic communities is not comparable to that of the general population, then the county cannot move down to the lower tier until there's more equity in the metrics. So where does San Diego County stand right now? And this is actually slightly out of date because just last night there was an update, and I will explain that in a second. But as of last week, San Diego stood in the red tier. You could see that our adjusted case rate was in the red tier and the positivity rate was in the orange tier. So of course we went with the most restrictive one and we're in the red tier. The update that happened is that last night there was a notification that the county has greater than 7 for the adjusted case rate. So at the moment, the county is in the purple tier for adjusted case rate. And it's considered to have been in that tier for 1 week. If we go another week with our adjusted case rate still in the purple tier, then the county will have to shut down more businesses. So we're in a danger spot right now. I'm really glad that you guys are here taking it seriously so we can try to do our best to minimize the impact of COVID-19 on our businesses. So one important thing is making sure that your business is allowed to be reopened. The county has a website that's linked on this slide. You click on this reopening tab and it'll tell you all the restrictions on businesses. So what's allowed to be open, what restrictions there are on capacity, and what's closed. So this is where you're going to want to check if we do end up being moved into a more restrictive tier to see how that impacts your business.